Can you shut that door, please? Thank you, Robert.
All right, you got it. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good morning, guys. I had a hard time connecting, so I had to give Robert a call and have him help me out. Yeah, I don't know what happened. It just said the internet connection wasn't running or it wasn't up. So we had to do a couple things and get it going. How are you?
Oh, I'm good.
Good. Okay, so Joyce, I don't have audio. I will be back, okay? Sounds good, Joyce. All right, well, we'll get started. Sorry about that. All right, so I'm going to mute you guys, and I'll unmute you. Let's see here. I'll unmute you after class, all right? So we'll get going. All righty. We're going to get started with some common words. Here we go. Ready? Remain, child, enjoy, gun, slow, city, broke, key, lead, throat, normal, you'd, somewhere, wake, pair, sky, bunny, business, student, giggle, bright, admit, jeans, given, children, store, sweet, low, climb, rub, apartment, knee, shoe, attack, bedroom, joke, spent, situation, stuck, gently, possible, sell, mention, silent, definitely, rush, hung, brush, perhaps, grown, rock, card, lose, blush, ass, besides, crazy, type, bore, afraid, chase, respond, marry, remind. All right. Got some phrases for you. Again, you want to just phrase whatever you can that's possible to phrase. Here we go. Ready? I have been. I can't have been. It would have been. May have been. May not have been. Might have been. Must have been. Shall have been. She's been. Should have been. So I have been. So you have been. That have been. There have been. They have been. To have been, we have been, what I have been, what you have been, when I have been, when you have been, where I have been, where you have been, whether I have been, whether or not I have been, whether or not you have been, whether you have been, which I have been, which you have been, who have been, will have been, would have been, you have been, before the, can believe, can he believe, can you believe, could have believed, did he believe, did I believe, does he believe, do I believe, do you believe, he believed, he believes, I believe so, I believed, I can't believe. Right. Moving on to names and addresses. Here we go, ready? Nanette, Bastian, Route 1, Box 348, Deer, Wisconsin, 54115. Ms. Lori Hetland, 100 Wampong Drive, Portsmouth, Rhode Island, 02871. Mound Middle School, 3789 North Water Street, Decatur, Illinois, 62526. Ms. Melissa Peterson, Route 1, Box 85, Centuria, Wisconsin, 54824. Mr. Paul Amato, P.O. Box 628, Colonial Squad, Albany, New York, 12232. Mr. Mark Redigan, Route 10, Box 319B, Branyard, Minnesota, 56401. Ms. Cynthia Griffin, Route 4, Box 26, Fifield, Wisconsin, 54524. Ms. Stacy Duplin, Route 4, Box 709, Breaux Bridge, Louisiana, 70587. Mr. Anthony Bocchini, Waynesburg College, Waynesburg, Pennsylvania, 15370. Lori Whitesell, Route 20, Box 12, Richfield, Idaho, 83349. Terry R. Irby, Joliet Junior College, 1216 Humboldt Avenue, Joliet, Illinois, 60436. Tina Mollett, 10905 River Road, Chesterfield, Virginia, 23832. Northeastern Junior College Learning Resource Center, Sterling, Colorado, 80751. Mrs. Christine Komar, Shorewood High School, 17350 Fremont Avenue North, Seattle, Washington, 98132. Ms. Trina M. Graves, 1393 South Oveo Road, Mason, Michigan, 48854. Karen L. Bertling, 5946 Augustine Avenue, Elkridge, Maryland, 21227. Douglas A. Reed, 5661 Derby Court, number 11, Alexandria, Virginia, 92311. Ms. Elizabeth Leyland, Montcalm Secondary School, 1350 Highbury Avenue, London, Ontario, N5Y 1B5. All right. Our next drill will focus on the prefix pre. Okay, I'm going to give you the words and then I'll give you the sentences. Here we go. Prepare, prearrange, presume, prevent, preside, preserve, preclude, prefer, preview, present, precede, prejudge. Did you prepare the documents? Please prepare something to eat. Who will preside over the meeting? Did Judge Gardner preside over this morning's proceedings? The store will preview its next fall line. We saw the preview showing of the movie. The medication will prevent headaches. How can we prevent the crime? Do you prefer red, green, or blue? I prefer to stay home. Try not to prejudge the testimony. The jury should not prejudge the evidence. Will this preclude you from attending the workshop? That decision will preclude the winner. I presume he is innocent. Do you presume he is guilty? Does the luncheon precede the meeting? Do you preside or precede me in line? Al will prearrange the party. Can you preserve the flowers? We visited the wildlife preserve in Grove County. How many workers were present at the union meeting last Sunday, June 22nd, 2007? Did the candidate present his platform at the political rally at the convention center? All right, moving right into, this is just a small paragraph using numbers. Okay, I'm going to read this at 180. Okay, here we go. The election votes were counted on Friday from precincts 118 and 140. Precinct 118 had a total of 1,555,992 votes cast. The Republican Party received 1,502,000 votes, and the Democratic Party received 1,055,090 votes. Precinct 140 had a total of 2,776,305 votes cast. The Republican Party received 714,210 votes, and the Democratic Party received 2,060,091 votes. So I was supposed to say 714,210. I'm going to read this again, but at 200, okay? Here we go. The election votes were counted on Friday from precincts 118 and 140. Precinct 118 had a total of 1,555,992 votes cast. The Republican Party received 1,500,002 votes, and the Democratic Party received 1,055,090 votes. Precinct 140 had a total of 2,776,305 votes cast. The Republican Party received 714,210 votes, and the Democratic Party received 2,060,091 votes. All right, and then the last time we'll do it at 225. Here we go. The election votes were counted on Friday for precincts 118 and 140. Precinct 118 had a total of 1,555,992 votes cast. The Republican Party received 1,500,002 votes, and the Democratic Party received 1,055,090 votes. Precinct 140 had a total of 2,776,305 votes cast. The Republican Party received 714,210 votes, and the Democratic Party received 2,060,091 votes. Right. Moving right into some legal terms. I'm going to read to you a paragraph, and again, I'm going to do it at 180, 200, 225. Okay. You're going to hear plat, liens, title, conveys, abstract, conveyed, deed, ownership, common, encumbrances, tenancy, easement, property, and real. Here we go. Ready? And we'll do this at 180. Real property is the land and everything attached to it or growing from it. The ownership of real property is called title. Title to real property may be conveyed from one person to another through an instrument called a deed. Liens, encumbrances, and a history of the ownership of real property are found in the abstract. The map showing the division of the land into lots is called the plat. An easement conveys the right for land to be used for some other specified purpose. For example, utility companies may exercise their easement rights. There are two types of ownership of land and property: tenancy and common and joint tenancy. Okay, so now this will be at 200. Okay. All right, here we go. Real property is the land and everything attached to it or growing from it. The ownership of real property is called title. Title to real property may be conveyed from one person to another through an instrument called a deed. Liens, encumbrances, and a history of the ownership of real property are found in the abstract. The map showing the division of the land into lots is called the plat. An easement conveys the right for land to be used for some other specified purpose. For example, utility companies may exercise their easement rights. There are two types of ownership of land and property: tenancy and common and joint tenancy. Okay, so the last time will be at 225. Real property is the land and everything attached to it or growing from it. The ownership of real property is called title. Title to real property may be conveyed from one person to another through an instrument called a deed. Liens, encumbrances, and the history of the ownership of real property are found in the abstract. The map showing the division of the land into lots is called the plat. An easement conveys the right for land to be used for some other specified purpose. For example, utility companies may exercise their easement rights. There are two types of ownership of land and property: tenancy and common and joint tenancy. And I'll go ahead and read this one last time at 250, okay? I have my watch marked for it, so I might as well. All right, here we go. Real property is the land and everything attached to it or growing from it. The ownership of real property is called a title. Title to real property may be conveyed from one person to another through an instrument called a deed. Liens, encumbrances, and a history of the ownership of real property are found in the abstract. The map showing the division of the land into lots is called the plat. An easement conveys the right for land to be used for some other specified purpose. For example, utility companies may exercise their easement rights. There are two types of ownership of land on property: tenancy and common and joint tenancy. Right. I've got 2 more drills for you. This is going to be an initial consonant compound drill in sentences, and it focuses on initial BR. Okay. All right, here we go. Just stating this. Here we go. That branch of the river is wider. Brand names are not necessarily better. His bradycardia didn't bother him. I will have brandy after dinner. He was a brash young man. Catch the brass ring on the carousel. They wore brassards on their arms. The brassy brats brattled around. Bravado is a pretense of bravery. We have brave soldiers. He displayed his brawn by brawling. Did you ever hear a donkey bray? She was known as a brazen person. Let's take a trip to Brazil. Water pressure caused a breach in the dam. Bread is the staff of life. Bream are not hard to catch. He broke his breastbone in the accident. Hold your breath as long as you can. Vodka leaves you breathless. All right, my last drill for you focuses on haul, as in haul away the garbage. Haul, walk down the hall. Then we have fourth. I am fourth in line. F-O-U-R-T is the way that I write fourth, fort. And then fourth, go forth to the podium. Okay, which you could write that either F-O-R-G-T or F-long O-R-G-T. All right, here we go. Here are your sentences. Can you haul the sand? Walk down that hall. Did you haul the load? Repaint the hallway. A truck will haul it. I'm renting the hall. Reserve the hall now. He is hauling logs. Hang it on the wall in the hall. Don't haul it away. Try the union hall. It needs an overhaul. Wait out in the hall. Haul away the trash. I'm hauling freight. It is down the hall. I see the fourth question. It's the forthcoming case. The hallway is too dark. He paced back and forth. The union hall was packed. He was hauled off to jail. It's a long, narrow hall. What is the hauling cost? It's his fourth offense. Is it too heavy to haul? See the Fourth Amendment. The record sets it forth. Hire a hall for the party. I need a truck to haul it. It's the fourth attempt. Set forth the true facts. A witness is in the hall. I'm hauling a heavy load. The fourth one broke. Test the fourth one. Bring forth the facts. That was set forth. Check the fourth row. They left forthwith. It's the fourth one. The boy sallied forth. It's the fourth time. They are forthright. I'm fourth in line. A witness came forth. He's in fourth place. Henceforth be on time. Send the fourth check. Set forth your plans. I'm on the fourth tee. Bring it forth now. All right, moving right into some literary. And this is one of the sections of the metals. Okay, so you're going to hear mercury, platinum, enduring, gauges, liquid, nuclear, conductor, electronics, thermometer, vapor, centigrade, alloys, quicksilver, barometer, fluorescent, denser, artificial, electrical, ultraviolet, and gold. All right, here we go. I'm going to read this at 180. The only metal that is liquid at room temperature is mercury, sometimes called quicksilver. Mercury is 13.5 times denser than water and actually the heaviest liquid known. Mercury is used in instruments of measurement such as thermometers, barometers, and vacuum gauges. The mercury vapor discharge is a good source of ultraviolet light used for fluorescent lamps. Platinum is stronger and harder than gold. It melts at a higher temperature than gold, 1,773.5 degrees centigrade. Platinum is a good electrical conductor because it is very expensive and has an enduring quality. Jewelry is frequently fashioned from platinum. In surgery, platinum with its alloys is used for artificial bones. In this age of nuclear science and electronics, many metals are finding new applications that are sure to improve our standard of living. Okay, I'm going to read that one more time at 200, okay? All right. Here we go. The only metal that is liquid at room temperature is mercury, sometimes called quicksilver. Mercury is 13.5 times denser than water and actually the heaviest liquid known. Mercury is used in instruments of measurement such as thermometers, barometers, and vacuum gauges. The mercury vapor discharge is a good source of ultraviolet light used in fluorescent lamps. Platinum is stronger and harder than gold. It melts at a higher temperature than gold, 1,773.5 degrees centigrade. Platinum is a good electrical conductor because it is very expensive and has an enduring quality. Jewelry is frequently fashioned from platinum. In surgery, platinum with its alloys is used for artificial bones. In this age of nuclear science and electronics, many metals are finding new applications that are sure to improve our standard of living. All right. I wouldn't even try to read that at 225 because I think it was a little bit more on the dense side. I could tell just by the way, just by me reading it, it's probably challenging for you guys. All right. I'm going to read to you one more. I'll read to you one more literary piece, and then we'll move right into jury charge, okay? All right. This is on earthquakes. So you're going to hear crust, gigantic, cracking, earthquake, seismograph, South America, California, scientists, dislocation, propounded, Japan, seismology, geological, interplays, volcanoes. All right, here is your paragraph. Actually, it's a couple paragraphs long. I'll read this at 180. The crust of the earth is constantly changing. Gigantic forces are continually at work reshaping the rocks of which the crust consists, moving them, bending them, and cracking them. We are not aware of this gradual process until the day an earthquake occurs. Earthquakes are a common occurrence in some areas of the world, such as California, South America, and Japan. Hundreds of quakes take place every day, but they are so minor that they are not even felt. The study of earthquakes is called seismology. The instrument to measure the intensity of an earthquake is the seismograph. A great majority of earthquakes are caused by rapid movements or dislocations of the Earth's underground structure. Several theories have been propounded regarding the reason for these dislocations occurring. Many scientists feel that quakes are a result of a natural geological process that interplays with the force of gravity. Certain earthquakes can be directly associated with volcanoes. The science of seismology is relatively new. Since changes in the Earth's crust take place over thousands of years, scientists have difficulty determining cause and effect. Okay, so I'll read that one more time at 200, okay? Here we go. The crust of the earth is constantly changing. Gigantic forces are continually at work reshaping the rocks of which the crust consists, moving them, bending them, and cracking them. We are not aware of this gradual process until the day an earthquake occurs. Earthquakes are a common occurrence in some areas of the world, such as California, South America, and Japan. Hundreds of quakes take place each day, but they are so minor that they are not even felt. The study of an earthquake is called seismology. The instrument to measure the intensity of an earthquake is the seismograph. The great majority of earthquakes are caused by rapid movements or dislocations of the Earth's underground structure. Several theories have been propounded regarding the reason for these dislocations occurring. Many scientists feel that quakes are a result of a natural geological process that interplays with the force of the gravity. Certain earthquakes can be directly associated with volcanoes. The science of seismotology is relatively new. The changes in the Earth's crust take place over thousands of years. Scientists have difficulty determining cause and effects. All right, so I'll read that one more time at 225, okay? Here we go. The crust of the earth is constantly changing. Gigantic forces are continually at work reshaping the rocks of which the crust consists, moving them, bending them, and cracking them. We are not aware of this gradual process until the day an earthquake occurs. Earthquakes are a common occurrence in some areas of the world, such as California, South America, and Japan. Hundreds of quakes take place each day, but they are so minor that they are not even felt. The study of earthquakes is called seismotology or seismology. The instrument to measure the intensity of an earthquake is the seismograph. The great majority of earthquakes are caused by rapid movements or dislocations of the Earth's underground structure. Several theories have been propounded regarding the reason for these dislocations occurring. Many scientists feel that quakes are a result of the natural geological process that interplays with the force of gravity. Certain earthquakes can be directly associated with volcanoes. The science of seismology is relatively new. Since changes in the Earth's crust take place over thousands of years, scientists have difficulty determining cause and effect. All right. Moving into jury charge. The subject here is punitive damages. Okay. And let's see here. I'll read this at 200. Okay, and then depending on how it goes, yeah, I'll probably just read this one at 200. All right, here we go. Ready? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you find that the plaintiff was unlawfully evicted and obliged to leave the premises without notice by reason of the wrongful acts of the defendant, then you may consider whether or not, under all these circumstances, the plaintiff is entitled to recover what are known as punitive damages. Such damages are by way of punishment, that is, to punish the wrongdoer for his wrongful and unlawful acts and deter him from committing like offenses in the future. You may take all of the facts and circumstances into consideration and then award such an amount for punitive damages as you feel would be fair and just under the circumstances. Punitive damages are allowed only when one doesn't act wrongfully and maliciously in the contemplation of the law, where one interferes with the rights of another knowingly and purposely. If at the same time he knows it is wrong and unlawful, then it is malicious. Punitive damages should not be excessive and should be reasonable. They should be fitted to all the facts and circumstances in the case. It rests entirely with you whether or not you should award any such damages. If you do, they should be fair and reasonable. The jury are the sole judges of the facts in the case, the credibility of the witnesses, and the weight to be given to their testimony. In anything that the court may have said throughout the trial or anything that the court may say in the instructions, the court has not intended and does not now intend to express any opinion upon the facts of the case, upon the credibility of the witnesses, or the weight to be given to their testimony. Furthermore, the court instructs the jury that you have a right to consider all of the evidence in the light of your own observation and experience in the affairs of life. Okay, and I will read that again one more time at 225. I think it'll be good practice because this was, I think maybe an easier jury charge. So it'll be good practice to hear this at 225. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you find that the plaintiff was unlawfully evicted and obliged to leave the premises without notice by reason of the wrongful act of the defendant, then you may consider whether or not, under all the circumstances, the plaintiff is entitled to recover what are known as punitive damages. Such damages are by way of punishment, that is, to punish the wrongdoer for his wrongful and unlawful acts and deter him from committing like offenses in the future. You may take all of these facts and circumstances into consideration and then award such an amount for punitive damages as you feel would be fair and just under the circumstances. Punitive damages are allowed only when one doesn't act wrongfully and maliciously in the contemplation of the law, where one interferes with the rights of another knowingly and purposely. If at the same time he knows it is wrong and unlawful, then it is malicious. Punitive damages should not be excessive and should be reasonable. They should be fitted to all of the facts and the circumstances in the case. It rests entirely with you whether or not you should award any such damages. If you do, they should be fair and reasonable. The jury are the sole judges of the facts in the case, the credibility of the witnesses, and the weight to be given to their testimony. In anything that the court may have said throughout the trial or anything that the court may say in the instructions, the court has not intended and does not now intend to express any opinion upon the facts of the case, upon the credibility of the witnesses, or the weight to be given to their testimony. Furthermore, the court instructs the jury that you have a right to consider all of the evidence in the light of your own observation and experience in the affairs of life. All right. How are we doing on time? All right, 9:38. Okay, I'm going to read to you one more jury charge, okay? I'm going to read this one right at 225, okay? The subject here is scope of employment. All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the law of the state that whenever a motor vehicle is operated upon any street or highway of the state by any person other than the owner with the consent of the owner express or implied, the operator thereof shall, in the case of an accident, be deemed the agent of the owner of such vehicle in the operation thereof. Therefore, the operation of a vehicle on a public highway by one who is not the owner creates and justifies an inference that the vehicle is being used for the owner and with his authority unless such interference is overcome by other evidence. Deviation from the regular course of duty does not necessarily take the employee out of the scope of his employment. If the employee combines his own business with that of his employer and is attending to both at the same time, then he is still within the scope of his employment. The test of liability of the employer is whether at the time of the accident, the employee was performing some act in furtherance of his employer's business as well as his own interest. However, if the employee abandons and turns away completely from the employer's business to engage in some purpose wholly his own, then he is outside the scope of his employment and the employer is released from any liability. If the employee steps outside of his employment to do some act for himself, not connected with the employer's business, there is no responsibility on the employer for such act. But if the employee is, at the time of such deviation, also serving the employer's purpose of some extent, there may be a liability on the part of the employer also. This presents a question for the jury. The burden of proof rests upon the defendant to prove by the greater weight of the evidence that the truck at the time of the accident was not being used in the business of the company. All right, moving right into Q&A. This is direct examination. So we've got the plaintiff questioning, and then it goes into cross-examination. So you got a little bit of both. Okay, and I will start out at, I'll read this at, I'll start at 180 and then go into 200 with this one, okay? We'll finish at 200. All right, here we go. Ready? What is your full name, sir? Peter K. Marshall. What is your occupation? I am Chief of Police, City of Miami Beach, Florida. Directing your attention, sir, to May of this year. Were you employed in that occupation? Yes, I was. And on Sunday, the 31st of May, did you have occasion to go to your front door? I did. Will you tell the jury what you discovered on that occasion? On the inlaid brick steps of my porch, I found an envelope with my name and address on it. Did you open that envelope? Yes, I did. What was in the envelope? An anonymous letter. Did you read that letter? Yes, I did. Now, directing your attention, sir, to the 3rd of July of this year, did you testify at a preliminary hearing of Mr. Darwin, Mr. Elliott, and Mr. Perkins involving this same matter? Yes, I did. At that time, did you examine that letter and envelope? Yes, I did. Was that letter and envelope either entered into evidence or as exhibits in the courtroom? I believe they were. Now, going back to the 31st of May, after you had received this letter and envelope, did you turn the envelope over to any other individual? The following morning, I turned it over to Captain Monroe of the Miami Beach Police Department for comprehensive investigation and further action. I have here, sir, a letter addressed to Mr. Peter K. Marshall. It is a photo copy of a letter. I ask you to examine that, sir. Do you recognize the contents of the letter, sir? Yes, I do. What letter would that be? The copy of the letter I received on my porch on Sunday, the Sunday morning in question. I would like to introduce this as People's Exhibit next in order. Are you moving for identification? Yes, I am. Thank you. Mrs. Delaney, this copy has attached to it Plaintiff's Exhibit B1. I assume that this was in the court. That is right. It probably should be taken off unless I think it should be taken off, and we should proceed under our own markings to avoid confusion. Well, I think so too. The only thing is, I think I think the record should show that this was People's Exhibit B1 in the proceedings of the preliminary hearing in court in Miami Beach, and I will remove the exhibit marked page. Very well, Your Honor. It will be received and marked Plaintiff's Exhibit number 3 for identification. I have here a photo of what appears to be an envelope addressed to Mr. Peter K. Marshall. I ask you to examine that and see if you recognize that. It appears to be a copy of the envelope that the letter was received in. Fine. I would like to introduce this for identification next in order. It will be received and marked plaintiff's number 4 for identification. That is all of the questions that I have. Chief, about what time of the morning was this? I believe it was about 8 o'clock. Was it daylight then? That is right. Had you previously used your front door the previous evening? About what time? I actually don't recollect, probably before midnight. Did you return home at that time? That is right. Now, when you returned home, was the porch light on? It usually is. Was it on that night? As far as I remember. That would be Memorial Day evening then, Saturday Memorial Day, May 30. That is right. When you came home, did you come home alone? I really don't remember. I doubt it very much, though. My wife is usually with me if I am out in the evening. Now, my recollection is that you just have one step on your porch. Is that right? There are 2 steps. 2 steps. Where was this letter when you first saw it? As I recall, I believe it was on the top step. Now, was it close to the door, or was it close to the outside extremity of the porch? That I don't really recall. Did you come out to pick up the paper that morning? That is correct. Where was the paper? On the sidewalk about 10 feet in front of the steps. Okay, toward the driveway then, right? That is correct. Were you alone when you found this letter? I was. And you disposed of it the following morning then, is that right? That is correct. You kept it in your possession all that day? Yes, I did. And that evening, did you keep this letter in your possession? Yes, I did. Your Honor, I have nothing further at this time. I would like the witness to remain on call. All right, so I started at 180, and about where the plaintiff gave up his time and cross-examination started, that's about where I started. Like, I picked it up to 200. Okay. All right, so we'll do another one, another Q&A piece, and I'm going to read this at 200 and then work my way up to 225. All right. This is going to start with plaintiff. Actually, it is just plaintiff. So, all right, doing on time. 9:46. Okay, here we go. What is your full name? David Carl Johnson. And what is your present home address? 1408 Broadway, Atlanta, Georgia. What is your telephone number? 550-7475, area code 404. How long have you lived in Atlanta, Georgia? For the last year. Where did you live prior to that? Here in Macon. Did you ever have an occasion to meet a person by the name of Brian Smith? Yes. When did you first have occasion to meet Brian Smith? In 2006. Did you ever negotiate with Brian Smith to go into a business with him? Yes, I did. What type of business was that? The wholesale nursery business. When did that take place? That was in December, the 1st of December 2008. Can you tell me where that discussion took place and what the essence of that discussion was? Well, Brian had told me that he had found through an ad on the internet a greenhouse that he thought would be a good deal, and he would like to go into the business. We sat down and talked about it and figured out how we would do it. What else was discussed at that time, if anything? Well, I don't remember anything about the details that we discussed, but we did look at a nursery greenhouse. Where was that greenhouse? In Augusta. I don't know the exact street address, but it was on Savannah Road. Did you visit the greenhouse? Yes. What did you observe at that time? I observed what looked like a jungle that nobody could get through at the time. It was completely overgrown. Who was with you at that time? Brian. Did you speak with anybody at that time at the greenhouse? Well, not the first day we went to look at it, but the next day we did. Whom did you speak with then? Mr. Nelson. Did you have any discussion with Mr. Nelson at that time? Yes, we talked to him. We wanted to find out more about the business and to get the records of the business to find out if they were making money. What did he say to you at that time, and what did he do? Well, he looked at his records, and he said that he didn't have the complete accounting records for the business on hand, and that at the time he couldn't help us. Did he do any searching at all? How much time did he take to look? Well, we were in his office for a couple of hours while he was on his computer, and then we came back a couple of other times when he was still looking. But at that time, what did he state to you? At that time, he stated to us that he didn't have the records of all of the plants. He didn't even know what he had in inventory at that time. Was anything else said at this meeting where you and Mr. Smith were present with Mr. Nelson about the business? Yes, Mr. Nelson indicated to us that he was willing to sell the business to us real cheap, as he put it. What do you think he meant by that? He said he had a lot of bills to pay, that his wife had left him, and he just wanted to get out from under the business. Did he actually give you a selling price? No, he just said he would take $25,000 down and we could pay the rest later. All right, so I started at 200, worked my way up to 225. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'll start at 200 and work my way to 225, okay? This is going to be defense. Here we go. In March of 2007, were you living with Scott Allen? Yes, I was. Were you married to him at that time? Yes, I was. Was there any pending court action for dissolution of your marriage at that time? No, there wasn't. Did you have a job, and were you working at that time? No, I wasn't. Whom were you dependent upon for the necessities of your life at that time? My husband. Was that Scott? Yes, it was. Was this his only marriage? Yes, it was. And you had one child of the marriage? No, we had 3 children. 1 died. Then you had 2 living children? 2 children. What are their names? Carrie and Mark. How old is Carrie now? 12 years old. How old is Mark? 9 years old. As far as you know, did your husband have any other children? No. At the time of his death, was anyone else living in your household? Both of our children, Carrie and Mark, and my mother. Are both your children in school? Yes. Does your mother work? No, she does not. Insofar as you know, was your husband supporting anyone else other than you, the children, and your mother? No. During the last 1 year of your husband's life, are you familiar with the kind of work he was doing for the Utah Chemical Company? Yes, I was. And what was his job title, if you know, during the last year? Supervisor. And any particular department that you know of? I think he was in the chemical research department. I am going to ask you about a typical day for your husband. Can you tell us when he would normally arise to go to work? About 6 o'clock. That is 6 a.m. or p.m. in the morning. And what time would he get to work in Salt Lake City? About 7. And was that when he was required to report to work at 7? No. Why would he get there at 7 then? He had to set up the jobs for his assistants. This is his normal habit to arrive at 7? Yes, it was. What time would he come home? Around 6. The men in his department stopped at 4:30? That is right. Well, then why would he not get home earlier than 6 o'clock if the work stopped at 4:30? He had to do the paperwork. How many days a week did he work? Again, we are speaking about the last 1 year. How many days a week did he work usually? Usually 6. Well, did he work every Saturday? Well, there are very few he didn't work. Okay, are you familiar with what his job was at Utah Chemical, what he did? During the last 5 years, he was a supervisor. You know specifically what he was doing? Did he discuss it with you? Yes. From your conversations with your husband, what is your understanding as to what he did at work? Well, he had the men working for him. They had to conduct experiments and tests. He listened to the complaints of the workers and their problems, and he also had to listen to management. At the end of the day, did he ever talk about his work with you? Yes, he did. After work, and when he would discuss his work with you, what did he say? He was under a lot of pressure. He was nervous about the careless way the company handled the chemicals and their disposal. What were his exact words as far as you can recall? What would he say? Well, he usually expressed himself by saying he was very worried about exposure and contamination to himself and the other employees. All right, how are we doing on time? We're still doing okay. You guys want me to do a little bit of like read maybe at 200 and do a little read back? Or do you want me just to continue? Let me see here. or I can continue until the end of class with just reading Q&A. It's totally up to you guys. Totally up to you.
What do you think, Donna?
Can you even hear me? I don't have Oh, good. I just want to write.
Okay. All right.
Works
That
for me.
sounds good. I'll keep. I know Joyce was having an issue with her audio, so she wasn't going to be able to read back anyway. So, all right. So I'll just read. Okay. We'll do some more. Here we go. All right. This is going to be back to plaintiff. Okay. All right. Here we go. And again, I'm going to start at 200, work my way to 225. Mr. Lee, do you know the date of your first meeting with Mr. Monroe? I think you mentioned you thought it was somewhere in July. Yes, I assume that's when it was. It may have been earlier. Your best recollection is June or July of 2008? That's correct. I think you testified that in one of these conversations with Mr. Monroe, you received the impression that he wanted to sell the Pearl building and 2 adjacent lots. Yes, that is the impression that I got, that he wanted to sell the land and the building as quickly as possible. I see. When was the first time you received this impression? When I went down there the first time, June or July of 2008? That's correct. Did Mr. Monroe ever state to you the land and the building were already sold? No, he did not. Were you ever told that the owner of the land and the building was the title insurance and trust company acting as the executor for the estate of Thomas J. Davis? No, I was not. Your understanding was that Mr. Monroe owned the building and the land? That's correct. Mr. Lee, how were you first introduced to Mr. Monroe or referred to Mr. Monroe? Through a commercial real estate developer, Hawaiian Development Corporation. Where are they located? They have several offices throughout the islands, but their main office is in Honolulu. Do you remember the individual's name with whom you spoke to at the Hawaiian Development Corporation? Yes, Patrick Carson. Did Mr. Carson refer you to Mr. Monroe? Yes, he did. Was Mr. Carson aware that Mr. Monroe was not the owner of the Pearl building and the 2 adjacent lots? No, he was not. During your meetings with Mr. Monroe, did he ever refer to the title insurance and trust company as the owner of the properties? No, he did not. Did Mr. Monroe always refer to himself as the owner of the property? Yes, he did. Mr. Lee, I have here a document entitled Offer to Purchase for the property known as the Pearl Building, located at 128012 Coast Highway, signed by you on July 18, 2008. Is that your signature? Yes, it is. I have here a canceled check dated July 18, 2008 for $450,000 signed by you. Is that your signature? Yes, it is. Mr. Lee, whom did you give this offer to purchase to? Ivan Monroe. Mr. Lee, whom did you make this check for $450,000 out to? Ivan Monroe. Did Mr. Monroe ever accept your offer to purchase? Yes, he did. What were the terms of your agreement with him? The purchase price of the building was to be $1.5 million. The 2 adjacent lots were $140,000 each. Why did you give Mr. Monroe a check for $450,000 before the close of the escrow? This was to purchase all of the office equipment, the printers, and the computers. At the time, were you aware that Mr. Monroe was not the legal owner of the equipment? No, I was not. Absolutely not. Did you take possession of this equipment? No, I left it in the Pearl building. All right. We've got time for just a little bit more. All right. Looks like this is yeah, it looks like plaintiff attorneys questioning here. Here we go. Which side wall did this incident occur with, the left or the right? The left side. Do you know when the Caro Street house was constructed or built? I believe it was on the deed. I believe it said something like 1950, I believe, 48 or 50. Did you just sell your house? No, I actually lost it. Was it a foreclosure? It was a foreclosure, yes. Do you have any of the escrow papers when you purchased your house between the purchase from the Fords? I really don't know. I'm unsure about that. Okay, do you recall where the escrow was held? Not exactly. What's your best estimate? Ontario or something seems to come to mind. If you were to look at home for any documents relating to the purchase of this residence from the Fords, where would you look? Do you have a box of papers? Yes, I have boxes of, like, my previous mechanic shop that I owned, and I had all of this in my shed, so I'm pretty sure I have it. I just really have to search for it. Being I moved pretty quickly there, I had to throw a lot of things away. When you purchased the residence from the Fords, do you recall if there was any discussion between you and your real estate agent regarding the wall at all? No, I don't. Do you know if the wall was jointly owned between yourself and the people next door? I had thought it was. I never really got into it, but I had thought that, I don't know, I just had together from the past, I had known that I thought people usually go in together, you know, when you have a wall that separates your houses. I thought that you both would own it. Is there the house to your left? There was a wall that separated between your house and that house's property. Is that correct? Correct. Was there another house next to that house to your left? Yes. Do you recall if there was a wall also that separated its lot from the neighbors? Yes, there is. It had the appearance at least similar to yours? Yes. Was there ever a survey done of your property? Survey meaning what? Somebody comes out and measures the property lines. Not to my knowledge. Do you know what a surveyor's little marks look like in the ground? No, I don't. Your belief that the wall was jointly owned by your neighbors next door is just based on what? Just your belief? Yes, it's not that anybody told me this or that or anything. I just took it for granted, let's say that. Do you recall if there is anything in your escrow papers regarding the purchase of the property from the Fords that indicates either way of the ownership of the wall? No, not that I know of. The wall is on sides. Is it a cinder block? If that's what you want to call it, yes. It's like a white cement colored block, approximately 1 foot by 6 or 8 inches. And the mortar between the blocks on your side of the wall is what? Smooth or finished? What do you mean by mortar? What's the mortar? Was there some sort of material between the blocks? Yes, there's like a little, about a finger width gap of, looks like concrete, I guess. And that was finished in a sense. It wasn't rough and sticking out of the brick. No, it was nice looking. Do you know what it looked like on the other side of the wall? The same. Finished? Yeah, just unpainted cinder block, I would say. You know, it was, I guess it was, did you ever paint that wall? Oh, no. Did you at any time during your ownership have to repair the wall? No. What is your understanding as to where this incident involving Daniel occurred? Where was it occurred? Correct. Where? To the left side of my house. Front or back? The front, nearest to the front of my house. I'm going to object as hearsay for the record. Go ahead. I would say nearest to the front of my house on the left side. In the front of the yard or in the backyard? In the backyard, just in the backyard. What is your source of that information? From where the boy was, he was crawling to me. As I got home, my nieces came running out saying some boy had just fallen off the wall or something. So I ran through my home, out my backyard and around to that side of the house where they had directed me. That's where the boy had come from. He was crawling on the ground. You arrived home. One of your nieces told you that Daniel had fallen. They met me at my car. Yes. Can I have a continuing hearsay objection to that? Move to strike. Okay, sure. You drove up, parked in your driveway. Is that correct? I don't know if I parked in my driveway or in the front of the house, but one of the two, yes. Your nieces came out to your location at your vehicle? Yes. And both of them came? I believe Belinda was the one that came out. And what did Belinda say to you? She said someone had fallen inside of the backyard. And in response to that, what did you do? I ran through my home, out the back door, and towards the left of my home where they directed me to go to look to see what was going on. The wall that comes to the front of your house to be about 6 feet in height. Yes, it goes from the very back of my lot to the stops at the front of my home. And it is 6 foot in height, you say? Yes, about that, 6 foot in height there. Then from the front of my house to the sidewalk, now it's only about 3.5 feet tall, and that's the stucco type which matches the house. So between the wall of the left-hand side of your house, is there some sort of distance, space? Yes, there is. What's the space? The average space that they usually are, I would say approximately 4 feet. Do you know what the lot size for that property is? I believe it's 50 by 145, 145 feet deep. Yes, and that would be from the street to the, I don't know, this is a vague memory of what I originally saw on the title and stuff. It's been a while. I don't know if it's from the sidewalk back or it's a pretty steep, it's a very deep lot, I'll say that. Your backyard was how big from the back wall of your house to, from the back wall of your house to the back. What is the width? The width or the depth? Depth. I'm talking about, I would like to know what the width is of your house. The depth is, no, the depth? Go ahead. Do you know the depth? Well, I can't tell you for sure, but I would say it's about 80 feet. Okay, so your best estimate is 80 feet. Do you know the width? Not really. I don't think so. Okay, now, is that your best estimate, the width, 80 feet, based on your 8 years of living there? No, I said the depth. I'm so sorry, the depth. Well, I mean, if you'd like me to think about the width a second, back of my house, I had about 16 feet of yard. I had a swimming pool, which was about 30 feet in length. That was a long ways. Then there's another 5 feet plus 4 feet of decking, then about another 15 feet to the back wall. That's my best estimate. So about 76 feet or 80. I guess that is real close. Yeah, that's pretty good. And there was what, like a walkway or from the back of your house to the front of the house between the wall, 4 feet in width. About how long on the sides of the left? Well, it's not, it's all dirt. It's dirt between the house and the wall. You mean in depth, how long? Yes, how long would that be? Would the full width of the house, it would be the full width of the house. I would figure it's about 25 feet. Daniel's incident with the left side of the wall occurred in the 25-foot area. Yes, it did. That is right. So when you ran through your house, you had to run back towards the front once you got across the backyard. Yes, I went out my back door, made an immediate left off my back porch, made an immediate left on the left side of my house. And then, yeah, it was towards the front of my house, more in that area. Was there a chain link fence there? No, there's not. No chain link fence at that location. On the opposite side of the house there is, yes. On my driveway side, which would be on the right side of my home, I have a long driveway and I have a chain link fence there. Okay, so that, I would say from that halfway point to the end was all 225. How'd you guys do? And
Not too good today.
yeah, well, and I know this transcript is a little bit, I think, more challenging because it's describing the yard and the fence, and I mean, I think that's a little rough. So, don't be hard on yourself.
I just got a brief for chain link fence. I never had them before, so I was able to practice it. So that was good.
What is your brief?
I just use Chents, CHENS, Chents. I do chain link fence. And I just found it in someone else's transcript like last week.
Oh, yeah.
So, Chents was chain link fence.
I like that.
I didn't get it right every time, but it was close.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's good. That's good. Yeah, just make sure you don't get, well, I was going to say, if you hit the A, you're going to have chance, but
Yeah.
but I like that. Chents, chain link fence. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I wrote it down. So tell me, did Donna, is this a for sure pass?
Yes. I have a certificate and everything. Yeah, they for some reason, the email didn't come to me, and so I emailed them, and they said, "Oh, we're so sorry. Yes, so we sent your certificate on Friday, so you're good."
Oh my goodness.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's awesome, Donna.
Thanks.
So you really found, I think you texted me and said, I don't know if this means that I passed, but they said now your membership, your NCRA membership is.
So I got a letter saying, now you owe us more money because you're a real member. And I was like, oh, my email.
Yeah. Does this mean I'm a real member because I passed? Yeah, that's crazy.
So the next day I emailed them, and they emailed right back and said, oh, we're so sorry. Here's your.
I bet they felt bad.
Yeah, no, they were super nice about it. But that's like, I was happy, and now that's over. I've got to focus on California, so.
There you go. There you go. Absolutely. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. What are we in? Are you planning on going to the November test?
December 1st.
Okay. It's December 1st. Okay.
It's in Sacramento, so I got to fly or drive. Ugh.
It's in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I'm so happy for you. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Oh, so awesome.
We'll see if we get through the next one.
Yep, you will. You will.
One
You
way
can
or
do
another.
it. That's right. You can do it.
Thank you.
Well, you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you hopefully next week.
All right. Have a good one.
Okay.
Okay. You
Bye.
too. Bye, guys.